everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is Danny.
And I'm 𝐃𝐨𝐽.
And this is our 85th episode. Bold of us to assume that we're going to post the 84th episode, 𝐃𝐨𝐽.
It's gonna happen. It'll happen. Wait for it.
So we recorded episode 84 literally like 2 or 3 months ago, and it just sat there while we were so busy. So I assume it's come out by now. Otherwise, we wouldn't have published this one.
On the flip side, we're changing the way that we produce so that it can be more streamlined and we get some assistance with that, with the editing and whatnot.
Yeah, we have a podcast editor now. Her name is Christina, and she is awesome. And I'm sure she's listening to this right now. And we're super excited because it means more podcasts for you guys. The recording is not the hard part. The editing is the thing that takes so long that prevents these from coming out regularly. And now, for the first time ever since we started this podcast, 8 years ago.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. We have somebody else editing it. So how exciting.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the other thing that I'm excited about is that I finally get a chance to complain about how cold I've been, because it's warm enough for me to justify the ability to complain, because I've been prepping, I've been dieting. And it's like, well, if I keep saying how cold I am, then aside from coming across as whining, I'm just going to be annoyed with myself because I've been freezing. But it's getting warmer outside, and that's nice. And plus, we get to travel to areas where it's warmer and travel in general, and that's been rewarding. Like, we were just at the LA Fit Expo.
Yeah, it wasn't that warm.
What'd they call it? June gloom?
June gloom.
You ever heard that before?
I'm sure somebody has.
I definitely have.
Yeah, we came from New England, went to Los Angeles, and it was gray, and I don't think it ever actually rained, but it kept looking like it was going to rain and feeling like it was going to rain, but it didn't rain. But it was still nice. We got to work at the LA Fit Expo, and we met several of our clients in person, which is always really exciting. Got to eat some good food, and then we came home, and now we're leaving in like 5 days to go to Dallas FitCon.
You forgot about the fun part. We went to a cinema that was also a draft house, and they had vegan options there, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. If you're ever in Los Angeles, if you're ever in downtown Los Angeles, there's the Alamo Tap House, and if you are a movie lover like I am a movie lover, it is a cinema for movie lovers.
Well, they're a chain, Danny. They're in Dallas as well. We'll hopefully hit them up when we're out there. I know that's the intention. There's one in New York City. They're in several areas of the country. Alamo Draft House and Cinema. If you aren't familiar with it, check it out, because the one in Dallas has vegan options. So I'd wager that other ones across the country have vegan options too, which is pretty cool.
So actually, this is on topic for what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're talking about traveling and staying on track, because this is the number one thing that our clients and everybody really struggles with, is traveling, social events, holidays, anything like that. People have a hard time staying on track with their training, staying on track with their nutrition. And I don't feel like people had to really worry about this during COVID, like during lockdowns, nobody was doing anything. But now, as people are going back out, these challenges are coming up for folks more and more. And now we are traveling more and more. And 𝐃𝐨𝐽 is like eyeballs deep in his prep. Staying on track it's non-negotiable.
But before we actually get into the topic, I want to let y'all know that Muscles by Brussels, which was formerly known as the Academy, it's our membership. It's how you get access to our private community. We have a special offer right now where you can do a trial run for a month. So a free 30-day trial to Muscles by Brussels. And it is something we have leveled up on as far as what we're offering to you. In other words, we have bonus material now, where every single month you unlock new bonus material from us. Live calls more regularly with the team.
Every other week.
Every other week. We were doing them once a month, now we're doing them every other week. We have other cool stuff too. We continue to build our recipe database, so we now have upwards of about 150 recipes roughly. The private community is jumping, so you will have the chance to check out and actively engage with other Muscles by Brussels members. And the programming is periodized, so it continues to progress. So as you get into the months with Muscles by Brussels, you'll make sure to continue to be challenged. And we manage training stress as well by programming in deloads regularly. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so basically Muscles by Brussels, it's an all-encompassing program for any vegan who wants to get in better shape, whether that's to build muscle or lose fat or change their body composition. Any goal can work within this structure because you have access to the live coaching calls every other week where the whole team can come on, talk to us, talk to our coaches, ask questions, and tweak their program as necessary for them. And it builds on itself every single month. So we have some people who have been in this program for almost 4 years at this point and have made incredible progress. So like anything else, it is what you make of it. But if you are willing to apply yourself to the program, you can get awesome results. And it's only $29 a month. But if you click the link in the description down below, you can get a free 1-month trial, check it out, see how you like it, and, go from there. So we'd love to have you check it out. Okay, moving on to our topic. What is it about traveling that makes it so hard to stay on your program?
It is that it is not routine, and you have your routine. And when you stick to your routine, you get results. Now, granted, I feel like you should have a travel routine. And once that's established, you'll have better choices presented to you. But sometimes some of your choices are eliminated depending on where you're going, hypothetically speaking, even places that you've gone to before and you're familiar with it. So the decisions become more challenging and more troublesome and more worrisome when your choices change. And especially if you don't have a healthy set of choices available and presented to you because you're unfamiliar with your travel routine.
Yeah, so that to me, it's just you don't have control over all your variables the way you do when you're at home. At home, you're super familiar with the environment. You go to your grocery store on X day, you prep your meals on X day. You know exactly what days you're going to go to the gym. You know what equipment is going to be there. You know what workout you're going to do on that day. And when you travel, all of those variables are a lot more up in the air. So there's a lot to coordinate when you're traveling. And, I assume you're traveling for a reason also, whether that's business or pleasure. You have something that you're there to do, most likely. So you also have to coordinate it with that. And then there's getting around, which you don't usually do in the same manner that you do when you're at home. So it's a lot. And I think it's important to just acknowledge that from jump.
For sure. It's a lot. You're beholden to other people. You're beholden to your obligations while you're there, if any. You want to be present with what you're doing. I do feel like mindset, like going with the flow, does help. However,
Only to a point.
Yeah. Yep. And at some point you need to retreat within yourself and think about what you're doing while you're there. Otherwise, your intention and your needs won't be met essentially while you're out there. And you definitely don't want that.
Yeah. So I think step one is just to kind of make peace with the fact that it's going to be different. Your routine while you're traveling is just going to play out differently than you're at home. And no matter how well you plan for a trip, you can get various things thrown at you that kind of are going to have to change those plans. You're going to have to think on the fly a little bit. So just kind of making peace with that before you even go into it is helpful.
Mm-hmm. I personally have done the thing where I made the perfect plan for myself and I put it into action before I left. And then I got to the place and my plan was no longer helpful or working for me.
Because the gym was closed. The gym that you had set up and bought a pass to was closed on the day that you were planning to go.
Or the restaurant was closed, or the groceries that I needed I didn't have access to, or we planned on doing something differently and I had lunch mapped out for me, for example. Any number of reasons the plan changed. And in the past, I would do one of two things. I would either find a way to stick to my plan to the detriment of my own mental health
and everybody around you,
as well as just ruining the experience in general and not doing what I meant to be doing. Or two, worrying, borderline panicking, and not following my plan and being mad and angry about it. And then whatever it is that I was doing, it wound up resulting in self-sabotage in one way or another. What I do differently now is I take my plan with me, and sometimes I realize that my plan is 100% scrapped or 50% scrapped, and however it needs to be scrapped, it just needs to be scrapped. Sometimes I'm leaving food at an Airbnb to donate to a food bank. Other times I'm signing up with a different gym, or I'm changing the time of day that I train. Knowing these things are probabilities, high probabilities ahead of time, make it so that you make the best decisions on the fly.
But that said, you should still try to have some kind of a plan. And depending on how much you travel, I think you might have mentioned this earlier, or it might have been in the outtake, but depending on how much you travel, you can make that routine a thing that you replicate over and over. 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭 knows I am obsessed with systems. I like to create systems that work so that I can replicate them over and over and think less. My brain is a very busy place, folks. The less that I have to think about something, the better off I'm going to be. So creating a system that works for you, that you can then do every time you travel, to the best of your ability, can be a game changer. So let's talk about some of those tips that we use when we travel, and maybe you can adopt some of those for yourself.
I start off with sleep hygiene because nothing's more important than making sure that you have quality, healthy sleep habits while you travel. So pack whatever you need to pack to make sure that you're sleeping well. At times, I've even been crazy enough to pack my own pillow, or know where I can buy my pillow because it's a cheap Target pillow and I like flat pillows. And if it's a puffy pillow, I ain't gonna sleep well. Or just like knowing what to do in a scenario like that.
Yeah, why do hotels have like the biggest pillows known to man? It's like mountain pillows. Who's sleeping like that? I don't know. 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭 and I both like ratty, flat pillows. We've actually, in some hotels, folded up towels and put them in the pillowcase and used that as a pillow, which is kind of funny. There was one time we took half the stuffing out of the pillow. Do you remember?
Don't say that. That's not. We don't want to be telling people to do stuff like that in this podcast. It's going to come back to haunt us.
But yes, 𝐾𝐨𝐽 has definitely traveled with his pillow. I've never done that. But what I have done, and I swear by it 100%, I have a white noise app downloaded on my phone. And I listen to a particular white noise. It's actually called brown noise, whatever that means. But I listen to it every night. And when I'm traveling, like I said, you are in different variables when you're traveling. But in this regard, it often feels like I'm at home in my own bed because that sound is the same sound that I hear when I sleep here. When we travel, we generally are sharing an Airbnb or hotel with lots of people who have various schedules, sometimes are, up late into the night talking, and the white noise drowns all of that out and allows me to still get a good night's sleep. And also, along with that, knowing that I'm going to go to bed when I'm going to go to bed. And 𝐾𝐨𝐽 is the king of this. He will literally pass out in a room full of people talking every single time. It's very funny. But we go to bed when we're going to go to bed because it's very hard to do the things we're there to do if we're tired. And also we're usually jet lagged too. So yeah, sleep is priority number one.
Mm-hmm. I don't have anything to add to
Anything
that.
else we do
For
pertaining to sleep?
I wear pajamas. I pack pajama pants. I like to be comfortable when I sleep. Like,
What else would you pack?
well,
What do you mean?
I wouldn't pack pajama pants and then I'd be uncomfortable. So I make sure pack the things.
So were you saying don't forget your pajamas?
Yeah.
Is that your tip? Okay, good
Yeah.
tip, babe. The other thing I do is I always read on my Kindle to fall asleep at home. So I always make sure my Kindle is charged up. I bring the charger so that, again, I'm just trying to replicate the same environment when I'm on the road. Okay, next tip I know you're dying to get to. Water. Go.
Drink your water, people. I pack an empty water bottle. One that I used to pack a gallon because I was like, oh, I drink a gallon here. So but gallon jugs do not travel well.
And you have to carry it around if you're walking through a city.
It's ridiculous. So I just pack like a 32-ounce water bottle and I drink it on the way to the airport. Then I have an empty bottle that I pass through security with. And ideally, I fill it up and drink a full 32 ounces again before I travel, because when you're in air, it's not really practical. Well, you have a filled up water bottle when you're in air and then chug again when you land. Some combination of that to stay hydrated during travel, essentially.
kind of separate, but along that same line, does anybody else get like mad anxiety when they have to ask the person to move so they can go to the bathroom, especially if you're a well-hydrated person? You don't want to ask this poor soul 4 times to get up so you can go pee over and over again. Well, I certainly do get that anxiety, and I would sit there until my back teeth were floating to avoid asking somebody else to get up. So when we book our flights, we always book the aisle seats. Always. We are up and down like crazy during a flight, and that, 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐞 sits in the middle because he's a saint sent from God, and I sit in the aisle, and we always have access to the bathroom. It's fantastic.
She's seeing the halo on my head, but she doesn't see the devil behind me over here who sometimes I say something, but sometimes I just don't even care. And then that poor sucker who's by the window is too afraid to ask. But I try when I'm in the mood and I got my mind right. I'm like, look, please ask as many times. Please don't be embarrassed. Just ask. Just get up. We'll get up a million times. Because otherwise they try to time it when you do it and it's awkward, or they just sleep and realize like this is gonna suck. Like, I don't want people to feel like that.
All right, moving on from water. Stay hydrated. It's very easy to get dehydrated when you're traveling, especially if you're in a different climate. Remember when we went to Salt Lake City? We went from New England to Salt Lake City. I did not realize how dry Salt Lake City is. I guess I maybe could have looked that up. The temperature was fine, but 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐞 and I both had chapped faces on day 2. So yeah, super, super dehydrated in certain climates. So definitely stay hydrated. Let's move on to...
Protein.
Let's move on to training. I feel like food is the hardest part, so let's save the food stuff for the end. So training. What do you do for training?
Personally, I look up a gym ahead of time. I ask them what their guest policy is ahead of time, and I'll even purchase a guest pass ahead of time. And it's like, well, I spent the money and I set this up. I better do the thing.
Yeah. And
their hours are important. Gyms have all kinds of hours.
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way. Some other things you can do is book a hotel or an Airbnb that has a gym attached to it. Now, some of these gyms have a Swiss ball and a treadmill from 1978 and nothing else. So, take quote unquote fitness center with a grain of salt unless you see a photo. But a lot of hotels we've been to have really nice gyms that are included in the price. So if you're picking out places to stay and it's between 2 places that are pretty much equivalent, but one has a gym, go to the one with the gym. That's going to make your life so much better. And even if you don't get all of the exact same training you would have got in at home on your trip, you can get something in, and something is always going to be better than nothing.
Well, I got this tip from you, and I got this tip from a powerlifting coach from the way that they do deloads. And the bottom line is that it might seem like you're doing less because you don't have access to the same equipment with the same amount of resistance that you usually work with. But when you do something that's outside of your normal routine, you're challenging your body in a different way, and it usually perks up your muscles and forces them to break down and grow. So it's a nice way to enjoy variety and also to train your body in a different way if you don't have access to the same exact stuff.
Yeah, if you can view going to a gym you've never been to as something fun, where they have different machines your gym doesn't have, so it's fun for you to go try them, that's always really neat. Some gyms have super cool amenities that your gym might not have, so you can almost treat that as part, one of the exciting parts of a trip. I know this isn't going to work for everybody. I know that this, even I get a guest pass to another gym in a weird city I've never been to. That might be kind of extreme for some people. Some people might hear that and be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I would recommend that you at least give it a shot once or twice because it's more fun than it sounds. And I'm a super introvert. I don't want to be in places I don't know. I don't want to be around people I don't know. But even I like going to gyms in other cities because it's just neat to see other gyms, But for people who are not going to do that, which that number is high, what else can you do to stay on top of your fitness while you're traveling?
Pack 100-pound dumbbells in your luggage and pay for the fee to bring them with you.
Totes rational.
Pack travel bands and get good quality travel bands. You can get 2 different types. Ones with handles, and ones that have more resistance. And I honestly recommend traveling with both.
So let me elaborate on that because you said it kind of fast. There's a few types of bands. There's the long ones with a handle on each side. It's like a straight line with a handle on each side. There's also really long ones, but they're a loop. And then there's short ones that are a loop. So they're all good for various reasons. But the cool thing is they take up almost no space in your bag. They weigh almost nothing. So you can always take them with you and you can get one hell of a workout, strength training workout with just bands. So I usually take a combination of bands with me, a couple of the lighter ones with handles, and then a couple of the heavier looped ones. So those loop ones, a lot of people think like, oh, a band workout's going to be really wimpy. I have a band that is up to 150 pounds. Like I cannot even stretch it in a squat because it's not like a barbell. Like I could squat 150 pound barbell worth of weight, but the bands, because they're not like stable, you have to also use all of your stabilizing muscles to get it in, and it gets harder the further it stretches. Those bands are no joke. Now for a good set of those bands, you're probably going to pay like, I don't know, $80 or so. But if you travel a lot, they're worth it because you can continue to get in things like squats and Romanian deadlifts and rows that are actually challenging, not just using a 20-pound band.
And even if you're the type to get set up with the gym ahead of time, you don't know what's going to happen, where you're going to be, and it's always good to have backup.
Yeah. So have a routine. Make a routine this is what I have a lot of my clients do when they're traveling and everything is up in the air. They don't know what they're going to do. I have a routine that I've written. It's full body bands workout and it's 2 days. So I have them do day 1, day 2, rest. Day 1, day 2, rest. And it depends, sometimes people are just gone for a weekend. Sometimes they're gone for 10 days. So I just have them cycle through this rather than just trying to replicate what they're doing at home because, quite frankly, you're not really going to be able to replicate exactly what you're doing at your home gym with a set of bands. But you can still send enough stimulation to the muscles by doing full body workouts or even upper lower workouts that it says like, hey, muscles, you don't go anywhere. We still need you. We're going to need you when we get home. And that actually helps to preserve the muscle and prevent your body from burning through it. As far as cardio goes, I actually think people should walk as much as possible when they travel. Walking is it's the coolest way to see a new place. You're going to see so much cool stuff that you totally would have missed if you were driving. So I love it for that. And it's great activity. This last trip 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿 and I were on, I didn't have a single day where I got less than 20,000 steps. Not one. And that one is exercise. Don't discount it as not being exercise. It is. I guarantee you that's more active than you are most days when you're at home sitting on your butt in front of your computer. But also, that much activity can mitigate a lot of not so awesome nutritional choices. So it really works as sort of its own systems of checks and balances when you walk a lot. Cardio, all the cardio stuff, to do more formal cardio, the gym pass works, the hotel gym works. If you're in a safe enough place, you can do cardio outside. I ran through LA. I don't know if I'll ever do that again because I didn't know where I was going. And there were a couple of turns I made where I was like, better run faster through this block. But, I still got it in and was able to see lots of cool stuff. I didn't even mention that I'm running. I didn't even tell you guys I signed up for a 5K. You guys know how much I hate running. And because I hate it, I decided to sign up for a 5K to see if I could learn to like it. I don't really like it, but the 5K is in a couple of days and it's going to be a total bucket list item for me. I've never done it before.
Yeah, I think you like the idea of running. I feel like you hate running because it's just not something that comes naturally to you. I just want to make sure we don't demonize, because I think in the past...
Yes, I don't hate running because it's bad. Mm-hmm. I hate running because I hate running. That's all. Just because I personally hate running.
Right.
Lots of my clients love running. It works out so well for their body. I love the idea of it. All you need is sneakers and you can just go. That's so cool. But every time I'm doing it, every single cell in my body is screaming at me to stop. I keep waiting for that runner's high. I think you guys made that up. I think you guys made that up to tell people who don't like running to start running. But anyway, I'll let you guys know how the 5K goes after we do it.
Yeah, or some way to get the heart racing. I've seen lots of bike rentals. We haven't done it yet, but like you could even rent a bike and ride your bike on a trail or something like that, or on the streets if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah. But I think that pretty much wraps up training and staying active. That's the bottom line. Stay active when you travel. Stay active when you travel. Even if you're on vacation in like, the Caribbean, like don't just lie on a blanket on the beach all day. I mean, maybe do that for like a day or two, but walk around, see some stuff, do some excursions that require you to, hike up to see some beautiful view or something. Staying active will mitigate a lot of the stuff that we are about to talk about next, which is the nutrition side of things, which is hands down the hardest thing for people when they travel. So what are some of your tips for staying on track with nutrition while you're traveling?
It's between vegetables and protein right now, as far as what I'm thinking. We got to go with protein. We got to lead with protein, Danny. What do we do? What do we do ahead of time to make sure that we're getting protein in? Pack something. Pack stuff that's not going to spoil. Pack stuff that's easy to consume. Think about when to get protein in a non-negotiable way, no matter what. I think starting the day off works well, like making sure that your breakfast and your lunch or snack has protein in it, and typically something that you pack, because you can't rely on being able to have access to protein sources when you're on the go, or even being able to have access to whatever outside of going out to a restaurant. In a worst case scenario, you can't rely on anything other than ordering in or going out to eat. And so pack protein. Protein bars are helpful. Nugo Slim bars are really portable, high in protein, not calorie dense.
But not all of them are vegan, so check the flavors.
And also protein powder.
Protein powder, yeah. So, sorry, I'm cutting you off. But a lot of my clients, I say, why don't you bring some protein powder with you? And they say, I can't bring that on the plane. Yes, you can. You can absolutely bring protein powder on the plane. So, of course, you could check it. But a lot of people don't think protein powder is going to get through security. Like, you can't bring powder through security. They might stop your bag and swab it, like swab the tub of protein powder. That's happened to us before, but it absolutely can get through security. It's perfectly safe to bring, and it's very convenient. It doesn't spoil. You can take whatever is left back home with you if you want, and it's a very easy way to start the day. It's just like with a scoop of protein. It's like a little insurance that you're not getting any protein throughout the day. Because I never worry about people finding carbohydrates or fats when they're traveling. I never worry about that. You can find that anywhere. But finding plant-based sources of protein when you're traveling, especially depending on where you're traveling, can be challenging. So bringing some stuff with you. You don't have to pack every meal you're going to eat, but making sure that you have some protein with you is just going to make it easier the whole time you're there. Which, if you don't want to pack a bunch of stuff, but you really, really, really want to stay on track with what you're eating, you can order Instacart groceries to be sent to your hotel or to your Airbnb. So I don't recommend this for everybody because it's pretty neurotic, right? To make sure you have every single thing you need. I think most people don't need to be that extreme.
I don't know that I would say it's extremely neurotic. I think you can take it there, but I think you can also just have like a basic shopping list that you just click repeat on in an app like that and just have some basics.
Sure. But I mean, somebody who has like a goal that, could potentially be like life-saving, like if someone's goal is to lose a tremendous amount of weight because they're not well, Instacart totally is going to be your friend. Or on the flip side of that, you're in bodybuilding prep. Instacart in your groceries is brilliant when you're traveling if you're in bodybuilding prep.
And it saves you so much time and aggravation too.
Yeah, we used to try to go to a grocery store. I'm sure if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you've heard us say, hit a grocery store as soon as you get where you're going, if it's possible. And that's totally an option if you're able to do that. But now that Instacart and various grocery delivery services exist, you can do that too. And you can literally have the stuff, like you can click send as your plane is landing and you can meet it at the hotel or at the Airbnb.
Oh, and deli slices are helpful to pack. Deli
Yeah, like
slices are
tofurkey slices.
super portable. I've found like that they can last for well over a day without being refrigerated.
But don't quote us on that because we don't want to get sued.
Exactly.
But that's what we do. And you can like go to Subway. Subway, I think, is the most popular restaurant chain, the fast food chain with the most stores in the entire country. My point is you can find them anywhere. And you can get a Veggie Delight sub, like a 6-inch sub, load that sucker with veggies, mustard, maybe a little bit of the vinaigrette dressing or whatever they have there that's vegan, I don't know, and then stuff tofurkey slices or Eve's veggie bacon or some kind of plant-based meat into the sandwich, and you have a well-rounded, throw some avocado in that when they go through it, you have a well-rounded meal that's going to tide you over, for a 6-hour flight east to west coast that isn't going to totally throw off your macros.
Yeah, and then veggies from your key. I need to feel good. I need something that is going to be nourishing. And those steam fresh veggie bags are key because you can nuke them up super fast and you can find them pretty much anywhere. And you can get different kinds like cauliflower or mixed veggies or like broccoli or green beans or whatever. So you can, me personally, an ideal day as far as the base of my meals, you're looking at a bag of steamed fresh veggies at the end of the day, no matter what. Even if I'm like, oh crap, I ate more than I wanted to. Don't care. Eat veggies at the end of the night. You should not punish yourself and say I ate more than I planned to and not eat veggies. Get a bag of meat. I get a bag of veggies in at the end of the night. I have a packet or two of protein powder with a packet of oats in the morning. And then I have some deli slices during the day and maybe with dinner if I have no access to seitan or tofu, or if I haven't gone out to eat, if we're staying in and cooking, for example. Like those are some ideal tips and pointers as far as food sources go. Not to say it has to go down that way, but I do feel like veggies at the end of the night and 1 to 2 packets of protein in the morning are a great way to begin and end your day no matter what you got going on.
Yeah, another little pro tip if you're in a hotel room or whatever, if you buy or bring packets of oatmeal, packets of instant oatmeal, you can use even the crappy hotel room coffee maker to make oatmeal, stir in a scoop of that protein powder we just talked about. If they have continental breakfast, you grab a banana, boom, you have protein, oats, and banana for breakfast. Perfect. Awesome. So those are kind of our tips for like bringing your food, like the food that you can supplement the rest of the trip with, because 90% of the time when people are traveling, they are going out to eat, and you might not actually have a total say about where you go out to eat. If you're on a business trip and your work is holding a function at blah, blah, blah place, you don't have a say in that. Or when we go out, we're going out with a group of vegans, many of which who are not dieting, and we end up at some places that have mad vegan junk food. And, how do you navigate that without just eating a bajillion calories every single trip you go on?
Yeah. And even like all of our crew, they're looking at me, even you're looking at me and you're like, it's up to you, 𝐶𝐭. What do you want? Like, I don't want that kind of pressure. It makes me feel like I'm holding the group back. So I almost always say, I don't care, wherever you want to go. And I make it work. I find a way to make it work, which is like the perfect segue into what this next tip is all about. What do you do when you go out to eat? And sometimes you are the one making the choice. Like, don't fight it. I like to think about not being restricted or limited to my food choices. So I like to order off the menu with whatever I want, but also make sensible choices. So even though you have access, I know I don't always, but I try to.
I was just going to say those are opposing things. You just said 2 opposing things.
I did?
Yeah. Order whatever you want, but make sensible choices. I don't know what that means.
Well,
what if you don't want the sensible choices?
Well, then you order fewer things. So in other words, if dessert doesn't look sensible, but you want it anyway, order dessert, but don't order an app and maybe order a salad for your entree, for example. That's what I mean by being sensible.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Just because everything looks delicious on the menu doesn't mean that you need to order one of everything, and you need to share everything with everyone and like order, share everything and order one of everything for yourself. It's very easy to do that. It's very easy to fall into that trap when you're traveling, right? Because there's just so many options. I tend to remind myself of like the way people typically are. No matter what you see in the menu, you're usually going to flock to the same things more often than not. It's kind of like reminds me of how I was growing up. have a menu at a diner and there are 100 options, what are you going to do? You're going to order the same damn thing every time you go. You're going to order the veggie burger or the scramble. That was me growing up, because we think we want a million options, but we usually get the same thing.
I think you brought up a good point about sharing. Sharing food can be really, really helpful when you are out to eat. You don't need to have the entire dish to yourself, because most of the time you just want a few bites anyway. It's just the first few bites that are awesome. Past that, especially if it's something that's not particularly healthy or it's really heavy or it's fried, you don't feel very good when you eat too much of it. So remembering and reminding yourself of that, I think, is important also. If you know where you're going, you can look the menu up online in advance and try to make a decision about what you're going to get before you get there, because you're probably going to make a better decision way before you get there when you're not hungry than you're going to make when you get there. And you're suddenly on the spot and you thought you were going to get this particular salad with seitan, and then you get there and you're like, how did I just order the double bacon vegan cheeseburger? Oops. Make the decision beforehand and you're probably going to make a better decision.
You don't have to finish everything on your plate. Let them bust the rest of it if it comes out and it was more than you bargained for. They're there to make the food taste good. They're not there to give you healthy portions or healthy amounts of whatever you order. They just want it to look good and taste good. And in the past, Danny's mentioned packing food with you for later. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. I don't see the harm in not finishing what's on your plate and not boxing it up, personally. I don't see the harm in that.
Well, sometimes when you're traveling, it doesn't make sense to bring the food for later. You might not be able to eat it later. So yeah, if you're home and going out to eat, have them box it up for later. But if you're traveling, I don't think it's exactly the same thing.
Or maybe you want to box it up for later, but you can still not have it later in the day. Sometimes I'll have my dessert, I'll order a cookie for later, and I won't have it, and I'll be okay with that. You don't need to finish everything that you order off of the menu or take to go if you choose to take it to go for later. Pretty important stuff. And like Danny said, ordering ahead, knowing what you have access to ahead of time helps you sort of think and plan things out ahead of time, make better decisions or have better decisions presented to you.
So when I'm looking at a menu and I'm trying to make a choice, I do generally tend to get the thing that I want on the menu. 𝐬𝐿 mentioned how we all get the same things over and over. If there's something that says barbecue, I'm probably going to get it. Or if there's something that says buffalo, I'm probably going to get it. But for example, we ate at Veggie Grill when we were in Los Angeles, and I got the crispy buffalo chicken sandwich, but I got it without mayonnaise. And I got it with the lettuce bun instead of the big bun that it came with. So I still got to enjoy all of those flavors that I wanted, but I was able to save a lot of calories. Not that I was trying to diet on this trip, but I knew that I would want to eat other fun things throughout the day. So that's the thing. If you know that this is going to be a trip that airs on the indulgent side, not every meal needs to be over the top indulgent. You can get the sauces on the side. You can get the lettuce instead of the bun. You can get the small size of things, or the half sandwich and soup instead of the full sandwich and fries. You can get the water instead of the lemonade. You can make small, smart choices that add up to a lot and still not feel deprived, because you don't have to do all of those things at once, but make the splurges things that actually matter to you, or you actually think are going to improve this experience for you. But not everything needs to be a splurge all of the time just because it's there. And I think that's the trap that people fall into when they're traveling. They're like, this is it. This is my one vacation, my one chance to enjoy myself. And then they just get all of the things. They just dive headfirst into the pleasure trap. And then they come home and they had fun, but then they feel all this guilt when they're at home. And it's was that worth it? Or they have stomachache or they have heartburn. Was it worth it? And, I guess sometimes the answer is yes, but I find that most of the time the answer is no.
Well, especially if you have a specific short-term goal in mind. Whenever you're looking for your body to make big changes, you got to sacrifice a little bit. There's no two ways about it. I think sometimes our messaging errs on the side of be super flexible and be balanced and practical, and it's okay to be a little intuitive because you're there to have a good time. But let's get real here. You have a big goal in mind and it's a short-term one. You're just going to have to suck it up and make some sacrifices.
Yeah, you are going to have to still do your best to track all these things that we're talking about. Even if it's not perfect, you would try. That's actually a whole other podcast topic we have coming up soon, is about like, are we too soft? Are we too flexible? And, you know, I would just say we're coming from a bodybuilding background where people bring goddamn scales to the restaurant to weigh out their food on the table. And we're just like, hey, yo, have you ever thought maybe that's a little disordered? Just putting it out there. But yeah, Giacomo is right. If you have a goal, if your goal is to get leaner, if you are going to have to make some of those small sacrifices, even when you're traveling. But I don't think that means you need to pack every single meal that you're going to have while you're away. It means getting the salad instead of the fries. It means having the water instead of the beer at every single meal. It means, you know, skipping wine with dinner sometimes, or having one cookie instead of the whole thing, or splitting a dessert, like instead of having the whole thing. So yeah, I agree. All right, Giacomo has a bonus tip for everybody.
Get your mind right. I meditate on the plane and I journal on the plane. I think that when you are in a terminal and when you're in air, it's really easy to just completely check out and do something completely mindless. And hey, if that's your thing, do that too. Sometimes I'm just playing video games, or sometimes I'm sleeping, or just doing something that I would never dream of doing because I want to treat myself to like some dead time to do not a damn thing. Other times though, it's very intentional, and I am literally focusing on making sure that I have a clear head with a healthy mindset before I travel. So like meditating, journaling, thinking about how to focus on keeping your own personal space, even when you're in the mix in a foreign environment with people that you're hanging out with differently than you normally would. Like, making sure you take care of yourself on the way to wherever it is that you're going.
Okay, moving on to our question and answer segment. Do you believe or know that there are certain foods that inhibit fat loss even if they ultimately fit into your macro goals? I'm thinking along the lines of bread, rice cakes, ice cream, etc.
I think that some foods carry a higher degree of risk as far as derailing you. But that being said, I also do not think it's healthy to avoid those foods altogether. I just think you know what you're getting into. So if I have a scoop or two of ice cream, I know I'll probably want to have another scoop of ice cream and throw some toppings on all of it. And I may want ice cream tomorrow, and I may be a little worked up and want an extra snack. Like, these impulses might come to me. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with getting an ice cream. It's just maybe I don't want to make it a habit. Maybe it's just not something that I want in my diet because it's not nutrient dense and I want to eat nourishing foods. For example, bread, probably along the similar lines, but bread is also satisfying. It's 2 slices of bread with something in between. It's very like a nice sandwich with deli meat. Sounds good to me. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, certain foods, I think because they're calorie dense and hyper palatable, you can wind up over consuming and also craving more foods like that. So I just think that they're the kinds of foods that you sprinkle in, and you also know that they carry that kind of risk with them. But I wouldn't live in fear and avoid those foods altogether, because you'll ultimately wind up going after them anyway at one point or another. And if you don't, you'll probably feel a little disordered, in my opinion, and wind up just feeling like without. And that's not a healthy place to live.
But as the question stated, I think this is real. I agree with everything you just said, by the way. Certain foods can absolutely make you eat beyond your macro goals. But her question was, are there any foods that will inhibit your fat loss even if they are within your macro goals?
No?
Exactly.
All right, this question's for you, Danny. So if I'm under my daily goals, as in her macro targets, will I not lose weight?
That's a great question. So I see this a lot on all kinds of things where people say, hey, usually when I work with a client and I give them their initial set of macros or meal plan or whatever, invariably within the first 2 weeks, they go, man, this feels like a lot of food. And they have trouble eating up to that point. And it's one of my favorite things to hear, actually, because it's just awesome when people are so used to just needing to be starving all the time. But I say, no, I really want you to try to hit those targets. And they're like, why? Are you telling me that if I eat less than what's here, I'm not going to lose weight? And that's not it. If you're eating few calories, if you're eating in a caloric deficit, whether it's a big deficit or a little deficit, you're going to lose weight. The problem becomes if you're eating in too big of a caloric deficit, even though it feels like a lot of food in your stomach sometimes, it's actually not a lot of food calorie-wise, and your body will figure that out. And you will start to be hungrier if the deficit is too big. And maybe by Friday, you find yourself like face deep in the ice cream and you don't even know what happened. You're like, I don't know why that happened. Your body found a way to get what it needed, which was more calories. And when you do that, you can close the deficit up to nothing. So under eating by too much generally leads to overeating eventually, which leads to no deficit, which leads to no weight loss. So it's not that under eating leads to no weight loss. It's more complicated than that, but at a bird's eye view, kind of. The other thing is if you're under eating chronically for a really, really long time, your body's systems will adjust to your lower food intake. And a lot of people would call this like, it is your metabolism slowing down. Metabolism is a word, it's an umbrella term for a lot of functions that happen in your body. But when you undereat for a long time, those systems will slow down a little bit. It's not permanent, you're not broken, but it will slow down. And then you will lose less weight. It's almost like your deficit will become your new maintenance. But all of that said, starvation mode does not exist. If that was the case, nobody would starve to death, but they do every single day. So it's more what I said earlier. Undereating will lead to overeating eventually. And that's why people undereat and don't lose weight. Because somewhere in there, whether they want to admit it to themselves or not, there was a time when they overate. You pair that with the slight slowing down of the metabolism and boom, there it is. So if you have macro targets, try to hit them. Don't look at them as the limit you must stay below. Try to look at them as the target you are trying to hit.
All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. Remember, if you want a free trial to Muscles by Brussels, the link is in the show notes for that. Feel free to stay in touch with us on all socials at Vegan Proteins, at Muscles by Brussels. Shoot us an email, hit the contact button, veganproteins.com. You'll always reach us and you'll likely get a pretty personal response because we love to hear from you. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is 𝐬𝐿𝐫.
And I'm Danny.
And we'll talk to you soon.